Hello, my name is J Newby. I suffer with bipolar affective disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. I also am a huge fan of Doctor Who. My story really is that 97, 98, something like that, I was institutionalised. I became very unwell after some travelling abroad, and I was given a diagnosis then of schizophrenia, but consequently it was a wrong diagnosis in 98, and I was put on the wrong medication, lots of what I would say is horrible medication, which kind of changed me physically and mentally, and then it's been a long journey since then. I live in social housing. I'm living on welfare. Due to the illnesses, I really do come and go in terms of the ups and the downs, and the depressions are terrible. The psychoses in particular are awful and scary and terrifying, and those are what caused me to be put into hospital. And it was 2010 that Doctor Who really helped me. I had been in hospital, I think, for the third or fourth time, and these were like 28 days stays. Some of them were up to 3 months. Not nice experiences, and I've actually referred to them as Dalek prison camps, those institutions. But yeah, 2010, so I came out of hospital. I was very depressed, very low, and I'd known about Doctor Who, of course, for a long time. Peter Davison was my doctor in terms of when I was growing up, but the new Doctor had become the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, and yeah, someone suggested I watch the DVDs and get the DVDs, so I did. And was absolutely hooked, and it really, cheered me up instantly. So much positivity, and his Doctor for me is just so special. And my favourite companion is Clara Oswald. I just loved the fact that she entered the Doctor's timelines, and that she was born to save the Doctor. It's really an inspirational character, as much as the Doctor. The storylines by Stephen Moffat, absolutely brilliant in terms of being inspirational, being uplifting, being in tune with many of my own emotions and many of my own struggles. A big factor is loneliness. I mean, that's key to the Doctor, but key to a lot of people with mental difficulties. Certainly in my case, there have been times where I felt exceedingly lonely, and that's something a lonely person can certainly see themselves within the Doctor, I think. For me, there's a lot of anger, which I see in the Doctor, anger that perhaps that he's been always left alone, can't save people. For me, certainly there was a lot of anger. I mentioned the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. Living through that was just awful, and then to suddenly be told that's what you've been going through, it's hard to describe sort of the reaction to being given an additional diagnosis on top of a pre-existing diagnosis of bipolar disorder. Vincent and the Doctor, of course, is a standout episode for someone with bipolar, because supposedly Vincent van Gogh had this, the other term is manic depression, and so that was particularly moving. It gave certainly shed tears watching that. I did used to have a terrible drinking problem in relation, I think, really to the bipolar and PTSD, but I've quit drinking now for 5.5 years, so that's something that's that's in the past, and Doctor Who has probably helped me climb out of that hole and stay sober. One of my favourite moments of Doctor Who in the time of the Doctor is when the Doctor is in the papal mainframe and he takes a sip from a cup and straight away spits it out again, the liquid. It's a blue liquid, I think. But for me, that was like alcohol being banished, So yeah, that for me is just a kind of, I associate that with quitting alcohol is a good way to go, Through starting to find this whole passion and enjoyment for Doctor Who, I got involved with the Gallifrey Times, and it's got to the point 3 or 4 years later where myself and the chief editor produce a podcast, and it's a real fun thing to do. It's actually very hard work. It takes like a month's concentration, to be fair, but very enjoyable, and it gives me something constructive to do. The key thing is that the people you're working with, you've all got this common denominator of really enjoying Doctor Who and being passionate about it. And the friendships are very real, because everything about Doctor Who I think is wholesome and morally sound and inspiring, can't be said enough, heartwarming, certainly emotional. I mean, when Doctor Who seems to hit the nail on the head so many times, and those moments I will well up and I'll realise that I've experienced that kind of, whatever kind of set of circumstances is being kind of created on screen. So often I think each of us can connect with something very specific there. And so really Doctor Who has rehumanised me, and the Doctor and Doctor Who is all about humanity, really. That's what the Doctor cares about most. After the almost 20 years that I feel was stolen from me through misunderstanding, misdiagnosis, by the hands of the system, I feel, currently through Doctor Who, life has been restored and can have a fresh start, and there is hope again. So thank you, Doctor.